Hello everybody. In this video we are going to be setting up a Microsoft Server Active Directory. And before I do that, I just wanted to review the machines that I have up here on the screen. You can see within our VirtualBox Manager. The first machine, which is the MS Windows Server 2019, all that is, it's just the hardware or the virtual machine configured with just a basic 50 gig drive, 8 gigs of memory, and you can see some of that information over here. And it has loaded in its DVD drive a version of Microsoft Windows 2019. So while it doesn't have Microsoft Windows installed in it, it's ready to get installed. Now the second machine is actually a copy of the first. It's a clone of the first, only I've taken it a step further, and what I've done is actually done the initial installation and configuration for Windows Server 2019. And I've also installed a copy of Firefox. Okay? So what we're going to do is we are going to create our new machine for Active Directory, and I'm going to start by cloning my server 01. And the name that I'm going to give this thing, 01 AD, okay, for Active Directory, and we're going to say next. We're going to say full clone. And this takes a moment. It generally is pretty quick. There we go. And super. So, having created that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start it up. So we've highlighted it. We go to Start. As this thing starts up, just to review very quickly, Active Directory is a centralized authentication and authorization database that we use to manage our Microsoft Windows environment for the network. Okay, so what it does, it basically controls users logging in. So all of the users are defined and they have logons, namely user IDs and passwords and so on. And then once a user logs into Active Directory will look up what we've allowed this user to access. What computer systems are they allowed to access? What parts of the server, folders, services, and so on are they allowed to get into? And again, the beauty of Active Directory is that it really helps to simplify our job as network administrators. If we are working with a peer-to-peer network, which peer-to-peer networks are easy and inexpensive to set up, but as a peer-to-peer network gets larger, and I'm like anything over 10 machines, it becomes a management nightmare. So anytime we have a network larger than 10 machines, we should seriously consider installing and configuring Active Directory. Okay, so that's where we're at. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to log into the system, but before we do that, let's change the view here and make this a little easier for you to see. So we're going to do a scaled mode, and it jumps over to my other machine. Bring that back over here. And now in this mode, when I go to full screen, okay, that's exactly what we'll get. Rather than pressing Alt-Control-Delete, what we're going to do is press the right-hand control and then the delete button. And then we'll enter in our standard password. And here comes Server Manager up. As you can see from the bottom, we have Firefox that's been already installed on this machine. I prefer Firefox. I know that many of you prefer Chrome, and that's fine. We're going to go to our local server, and I see there are a couple of things that we need to configure here. 1 is the time. That is not the correct time. That is the correct date, but it is not the correct time. So I'm going to give point to the time there, give it a right click, go to adjust, and here we go. We're set to Pacific time, and we should be set to Eastern time. Okay, so okay, I don't want to change anything else. Then we've got our daylight savings time automatically. That will occur tomorrow morning. And excuse me, we're good here. Now, I also want to change the server's name. And so we're going to come in here. We're going to do change the description, change that to Active Directory. Then I'm going to copy that. And we're going to come down here and actually change the name itself. So I'll paste that in there, and I'll say OK. You'll notice that we still belong to a work group, not a domain. Once we get Active Directory installed, then what we're going to do is we're going to create a domain, and we're going to promote this server to become the Active Directory controller. So we'll say OK to the restart, and we'll close this, and we'll say restart now. And here we go. Okay, so again, we're going to do our right control and then delete, and we're going to say password. Again, we're using our standard password. You'll notice that the time and the date is now properly set. We'll go to our local server again. You'll see that our computer name is now in here. One of the things that we're going to have to fix is that our IP address is being assigned by DHCP. Now, when you install Active Directory, it's not going to like that. But I'm going to leave this in place so you can see what those messages look like when we get them. Okay, it will actually start up with a dynamic IP address, but in production, okay, we definitely want to have a static IP address. And because I'm running this off of my system within my my personal network here, it's not a problem to statically assign an IP address. So let's see if there's anything else that I want to set here. No, not for the moment. Okay, very good. So next, we're going to go up to Manage, and we're going to say Add Roles and Features. Now, there are many roles, features, and services that we can install on our server. Depending upon what types of services you want to provide within your network is going to determine the roles and features, services that you install. You know, these things are not automatically installed because it allows you to develop servers with specific tasks. For instance, you may have a server that handles just DHCP, or a server that handles Active Directory, or a server that handles file and printing. Okay, and depending upon the size of the machine, its performance capabilities in terms of the number of processors and the amount of memory it has, will determine what types of roles you're going to install on that machine. It really comes down to if there are all sorts of ways that you can go about implementing various roles within your network, whether they be on a single very large machine, or multiple machines, or virtual machines. I mean, there are so many ways to cut it that it's really up to your imagination and your budget. Okay, so here we are. We get this initial message, and you're going to see this all the time, unless you click this and shut this page down. And we're going to go on to what's called the installation type. And in this, we're not installing the remote desktop services, but we are installing a role or a new feature. In this case, we're installing a full-blown role, which is Active Directory. So we'll say next. We'll identify the server that we're installing it on. We only have one server. And you'll notice that the IP address that has been assigned is 192.168.1.119. Again, that is a dynamic IP address. And later on, we will change that into a static address. Okay? So we're going to say next. And now, here are all the different roles, okay, that we can have running on our server. And as I said, we're looking at this particular server to simply provide Active Directory. So we're going to go to Active Directory Domain Services. And we're going to click on that. And having done that, the system then comes back and it says, oh, by the way, in order to run Active Directory, there are a couple of supporting tools that we are recommending, okay? And here's that list. Remote server administration tools, Active Directory, and some of the snap-ins and so on, command line tools and whatnot. So we're going to say, go ahead, add those features. And now you see that in place, okay? So we'll say next. And now it's going to go over, are there any additional features that you want to add? And you can select those. You can see the list here. The system has already selected the group policy management, a very important tool or feature to have when running Active Directory, because what it does, it allows us to set up groups of users, groups of computers, and assign various controls and settings, okay, based on a group rather than individual machines. Again, what this does is it makes life for us as the network administrators a lot easier, okay? And let's see. We also have the remote server administration tools, which you saw prior to the message saying that it was going to add that, and there you see it, it's checked off. Okay, then we've got our system data archiver, some PowerShell tools, okay, which are already in there, and these other things, WAW64 support and XPS viewer. All right, so now we're getting ready to install Active Directory. And we'll say next. And then we'll give it permission to restart. Okay. So this way, if you were actually doing this and you stepped away from it, it would automatically do the restart for you. And I'm just going to say yes. And I'm doing that because we're not using this server for anything else. If this was a production machine, I would have to be a little more careful about an automatic restart, because I would not want to restart this server if other people were connected to it. Now at this point, there's not much going on with this server. There's nobody else logged into this server, so the automatic restart is is just fine. But if this is a production server being used by others, carefully consider that. Okay, and then we're going to go to install. And here is your status line up here, okay, along with some messages. And this thing is going to cook for a little bit, and hopefully we'll be successful. Now you may see some messages, some warning messages, but again, nothing to be too concerned about. We'll be going back in at a later video to fix up some of those messages. Okay, we're almost done here. It's giving us a message that everything has been installed successfully here, but configuration is still required. So, yeah, we've installed the software, but okay, we still need to finish by configuring Active Directory, and that will be our next video. And I'm going to say close at this point. All right, now I could go on, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this machine down and go through a restart, and this will be the end of our video for installing Active Directory. By the way, you'll notice that we now have an option over here on the left-hand menu for Active Directory domain services. Okay, so let's restart our server, and I'll catch you in the next video.